just so they can access and get up rather quickly as we go through. I do have a podium coming from the Fun Center, so as soon as that gets here, we'll just slide that in here. But this is a small group, so we're relatively informal today. My name is Cheryl Mativa, and I am the Marketing Director for Coming Attractions Theaters and Extreme Fun Centers. So first of all, so you all know, the candidates will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves, followed by 2 minutes to answer a question. And the question is, which Wasilla Chamber priority do you feel is the most important to you and why? Now these priorities are found on the Wasilla Chamber website, but just as a very quick review for the audience, I'm going to go through this. Number 1, Kinnett New Spade Road KGB upgrade. Number 2, equitable distribution of state transportation funding and recognition of the area's substantial growth and is an economic engine for the region and beyond. Number 3, oppose state-imposed limitations and regulations on liquor sales in jurisdictions with police powers. Number 4, provide targeted federal funding as a catalyst to leverage private dollars, spur economic growth, and ensure the long-term vitality of the area. And number 5, increase local control and decrease statewide regulations. That's a quick recap for everybody, and our candidates have had adequate time to study those priorities. So I will be calling our candidates forward, and it is in alphabetical order, so you're all aware. For our candidates, your microphone is right over here. I'm going to stand to the side so I don't detract from you. I'll make sure that the microphone is on. All right, so our first candidate coming forward is from District D. We have Thomas Lamb. So as you come forward, Mr. Lamb, you're welcome to pick up the mic.
Okay.
And as a reminder, you have 3 minutes to introduce yourself and 2 minutes to answer the priority question. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Thomas Lamb. I go by Tom Lamb for the informal part. I'm running as a nonpartisan, but I'm on the Democratic primary ticket. And the reason why I did that is I'm wearing the face mask because there were issues that came up with COVID. And when I got into the race, I originally was going to go into Congress, run against Don Young, and bring some of my background in that. Then when the House seat 7 opened up, I entered into my candidacy in that. And when Lynn decided to go in, I got out. She was a good fit for the House District 7 race. So I decided to go into Senate D. I'm a nonpartisan. And so trying to get the signatures, I have an 86-year-old mother, and she's dependent on me. So with the COVID, I had to be very cautious on getting signatures. And so I decided, I'm not normally would have found myself on the Democratic Party ticket, but the issue with my mom drove me in that area. When my mom found out, she's an ardent Trump supporter. We get into some serious debates. And because I'm nonpartisan, I look at both sides, and my support is neutral on that. And so anyway, jokingly, when she found out I was on the Democratic Party ticket, I had to tell her. She said, "You're a communist." And so anyway, that's the bottom line on that. So I am running in Senate D as a nonpartisan, or not nonpartisan. I'll be in the Democratic Party ticket, but I am a registered nonpartisan.
And if you could answer the question of the 5 Wasilla Chamber priorities, which one do you support and why?
Okay, the 2 projects, real quick. The Connect Down Bridge is going to have to be funded by the state. It's going to have to, the state's going to have to do it. The Port McKenzie, you have the issue with the leftover project of the railroad, the spur. You're not going to get the funding this time, COVID, and it's going to be a serious problem with funding this year, and probably next year because there are issues that are coming up. It can be done through defense projects, and my position on the port is that my background in meteorology, I know climate change, I know what the lack of data does to science. So my background is a data-enriched environment. They're mapping the Gulf of Alaska right now for seamounts, and that fits in to creating a research facility. Navy has its own research facility. It can combine with NOAA, and you could create a naval oceanic research facility at the port, use defense funds to fund the project. Then, when you get into the Kignard Bridge, since it's a defense project, then you can petition our federal Congress or legislators and see about getting defense appropriation to help with Kignard Bridge. So those are two projects, the Kignard Bridge and the Fort McKenzie, using an oceanic research facility. So, okay.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. And coming up next, our next candidate is Hunky Lee. And if I pronounce that incorrectly, I do apologize. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time, and thank you for this wonderful event. And my name is Hunky Lee. I'm running for Alaska State Senate District Team, which is Greater Wasilla area. And so, just a little bit about me. I was born in Ithaca, New York, and I grew up in South Australia until 18, high school. And then I came back to America, Madison, Wisconsin. I studied computer science there. And after that, I went to Ithaca, New York to do PhD in computational biology in Cornell University, where I was born. And then I dropped out after 2 years because too much books and too much studying. And I moved to Los Angeles, California to become an actor. I was not successful, but I made a movie, again not successful, so I just put it on YouTube and joined the US Army. And as an E4 junior university soldier, I was there for 4 years. I was deployed to Afghanistan for 1 year, and I came back to Fort Hood, Texas, and I got my GI Bill, and I got out after 4 years. And after with my GI Bill, I went to Ann Arbor, Michigan Law School. And I graduated in 2 years, and then I was watching Alaskan TV shows like Yukon Man or the Alaska The Last Frontier. I was fascinated, so I had to come here after I graduated without knowing anybody. So, and then I went to Alaska by exam, and right now I'm a lawyer. Before that, I was a computer programmer for the state of Alaska. So that's 1 minute, I guess, biography. And so, why am I running? I love business, and I'm a huge fan of business people because they can do something I could never have guts to do, like starting a brand new business. I don't have guts to do that, okay? Although I have many business ideas. So, how about politics? I think I have guts to do politics, so that's why I'm running. Also, I love politics too. And and regarding I have 50 seconds left here. So, Wasilla traditionally is a transportation hub. Like Iditar Road used to be the transportation method back in the days, the slash road, right? All the way to the mining, up there, So Iditar used to be a transportation method, and later on, they built railroad. So again, Wasilla again, before it was Creek, Fairview area, the Iditar Road, but later it became the Wasilla, the transportation hub. So I think we can continue that tradition, and so I guess I'm ready to make transition to the next question. So give me 1 second. I got 2 minutes, right? So okay. All right. So the business transportation, I was fully supporting if I get elected. The Creek Bridge, all the way to Anchorage from Creek, the Port McKenzie. And also, when it comes to the port, it's Pacific Ocean. Of course, there are technical challenges because there's ebbs and flows, but port is there, right? So, and also railroad to the port, and I 100% yesterday the Wasilla Creek Gooseberry tradition historically, right? So fully in support of that. But those are very big projects that requires big funding from federal and state government. So so down the road we should do that absolutely. But before doing that, maybe we can make some small successes and more credibility and. more fame, you know. So the current project I would suggest is this. In Greater Wasilla area, we have a lot of trees that's standing like a ghost. The spruce trees killed by beetles, bark beetles. Chopping them all down, there will be a nice project. And because they're bark beetles, because they only live in the bark. Okay, so if we debark and burn those barks and those branches and heat it up, human waste, then we can sterilize human waste and turn them into manure and perhaps sell them or using agriculture. And how about this timber of dead spruce trees? Or we can use that to build buildings. If people don't want it, we can build homeless shelters. And we'll hire homeless people and prisoners to make those homeless shelters and perhaps even more prison buildings. So there are some ideas I want to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did I see the podium? Thank you so much, Marty. So we now have the podium, so sorry for the first two candidates that weren't able to use it, but we will set it right here. That would be right there. You can tell we're married. Right there. All right. All right, and next with us is Chandra McCain-Finch. Did I see her here? The candidates did the option of coming or not? Okay, we'll move on. Bernadette Rubright, and she is not able to be with us this evening, but Tammy, and I'm sorry Tammy, I don't know your last name, but you are going to be reading a statement on her behalf.
Good evening, my last name is Doremus, February Tammy Doremus, and I'll be reading this on behalf of B. Rubright. I am a constitutionalist. I have been politically active supporting smaller government and the Second Amendment from within the Conservative Patriot Group and supporting the Republican Party platform of Alaska as a delegate to state convention as Republican District Secretary at one time and supportive of Republican Women's Group. I am pro-life. I have volunteered my time in cause which is dear to me. Locally, I have lobbied for the construction of our new Iditarod Elementary School, which was ancient and had continually failed to make it into the school bonds. Finally, Iditarod received its spot and was built in 2016. A Matsu Valley resident for 30 years and 23 years currently in the city of Wasilla. I raised my two daughters, Beth and Carly, here and have been married to my wonderful husband, Vern, for 25 years. As daughter of an Army Sergeant General Major, wife of an Air Force Army veteran, and mother of an Army veteran daughter, I understand the sacrifices that face our military service members. B's education includes Spokane Community College and Swaney School of Theology, 4 years education for ministry, which she completed for her own edification. Good evening to all of you, and my apologies for not being able to attend as I'm at work. I'd like to state to you my greatest concern for our state, and that is to keep the income we have stable. So please vote no on ballot Prop 1. A progressive tax is going to halt any new production and lower current production. We have a flat production of oil revenues, but it is expected to increase in 3 years. We must hold the line and reduce spending. That said, it is concerning the chamber must hold the line and reduce spending. That said, it is concerning the chamber priorities. I agree with number 1, and will do all I can as your senator to make it as speedily done and of appropriate design. Priority 2B also goes along with this, as we need recognition in state matching dollar amounts for transportation to handle our growing infrastructure needs. I have the dedication, experience, and drive to accomplish this. Please avail yourself to my information handout. One thing not mentioned there is my past survey and construction experience. I am about taking a good hard look at all aspects of our state transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Bernadette Worthright. And coming up next, Lloyd Thurman. Is Lloyd with us this evening? Yes. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Lloyd Thurman. I've been a resident of Alaska for 32 years. I came up and fell in love with it. Concerning me, I've been a pilot. Major portion of my life was in the Marine Corps, flew for them, went through the process, flew different flights and different aircraft. Was going to fly F-4s out of Yuma, Arizona, but it was 110 degrees at 10 o'clock at night, and I said, I think something's wrong here. It's either cooked their brains or they don't have any to begin with. So anyhow, I went ahead and flew OB-10s for a while, which was a great airplane, and then came back and flew advanced jets and was an advanced jet instructor, paying back the Marine Corps to the Navy for that. So anyhow, it was a great time. I enjoyed it, and then I flew for the airlines as well. That was some of my experience in being able to come up here to Alaska because it was a hub for transportation going over to Asia. Concerning myself and what I believe, I'm a physical conservative. I'm the one true conservative that's in the senatorial race. I guarantee you I'm as hardcore as could possibly be. So if you want your money saved and you want somebody who's going to be accountable and going to protect it, you need to vote for me. Smaller government is absolutely mandatory. It's not just kind of an option. The problem we have with a bloated budget, it's just gone crazy. We've been spending billions of dollars. It's just out of control. And until we begin to cut and make some cuts on that, it's not going to last. Alaska is going to be destroyed if you don't get some control on this spending, because it's way out. I'm for the Second Amendment. Yeah, absolutely. That's our absolute last check and balance of a government that's going to arrive. It's insanity that you give your vote away to somebody who a small group of people determine how that's going to be, and then they tell you that you're going to vote for that. That's nuts. I mean, that's communism, folks. It's a dictatorial situation. Talked about my military a little bit there. By the way, on December the 24th, could you hold that up again? On the 24th, I'm kind of active, I'm a sleigh pilot, so it's a lot of people call me Santa. In fact, it's even going to be on the ballot that way. I had to fight them for that down in Juneau because they didn't want it. They said it was a title. I said, no, it's what everybody calls me. So they checked on that, and they said, they really do call you that. I told them I could give you 5 names, but I gave them 10, and I said, if you need more, I can supply those too. So, my father, 2 sons are Eagle Scouts, and I'm active in the local Baptist church, and I love music, both bluegrass and also gospel. And I'm also on the Christmas Friendship Dinner board. I don't know what else you need to know about me. I'm a guy who ran because I felt like there had to be something changed. It's out of control. And so I'm not a politician, but I am a guy who will protect your rights and will vote for the people and not for a cabal or whatever else that goes on down in Juneau. So if you want a good guy, vote for Santa. And I'm going to be on the ballot, so vote for me.
And Lloyd, would you like to answer the question of which of the 5 chamber priorities you support and why?
They're all great points. that are there. But the one I think that is the most pressing is the one concerning KGB Road. People are dying on that. And because the majority Republicans gave it over to the Democrats where they controlled it, then you have a situation where you see how well that they work with us. We got nothing in the valley. And so here we are, a major portion that contributes to the whole economy of the entire state. We got goose egg. And the problem is the portions that were on that were already designated to go on to KGB, and the ruts that are out there in KGB were so bad that the bottom line was the federal wouldn't even supply money if they didn't resurface things. So it had to be resurfaced before they could even try and get monies. And we don't need 2 lanes out there. We need 4, you know, because if you're on the end of this morning traffic and you're trying to get back out, good grief, what a nightmare. And you want to put your kids on that? That's crazy. So trying to work with the opposition doesn't always work, and we've seen how well that works. So we have to be able to hold the line. We've got to be firm, and we've got to insist on the points where we can hold and use that as a leverage point for what we need here in the valley. So the bay down, can't think of the name of it right now. The Port Mac, yeah. In fact, I was just down there at the Tuck Bar the other day. Point Mac, it's essential for us. It would cause our economy to flourish here in the valley. It would really, really cause it to explode. So these are a lot of things. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And next up with us is David Wilson.
Hello, first I just want to say thanks again for the city, for the Wasilla Chamber of Commerce for putting this on, and Matsu Valley Cinema for putting this on here for this event. My name is David Wilson. I am the pleasure to represent the Senate District D as a current incumbent. Prior to serving in the Senate, I served on the City Council of the City of Wasilla. I served at the Matsu Borough Board of Ethics, and I served at the Matsu Borough Transportation Advisory Board. I believe this experience serving at the local and state level is what's needed right now in Juneau. We have a tremendous heavy lift and task before us, and it's going to be really hard to get up to speed in order to lift that bar of where we're going to be at with our budget deficits, where our economy is headed with COVID, and other factors going on right now with our economy. I'm a principled, common sense, liberty-oriented conservative. I moved to Alaska for 20 years, married the love of my life, the lifelong Alaskan, and grew up on the Yukon River. And I have degrees in education, psychology, and an MBA in health service administration. I've had the pleasure of working throughout this great state. Immediately preceding becoming a senator, I was the director of a domestic violence sexual assault program here in the Valley. And currently, I'm a substitute teacher for the Matsu Borough, as it gives me the flexibility and the time to serve my community and to serve my constituents. Over the past years, I've chaired the Health and Human Services Committee, where we passed legislation to increase the behavioral health access while lowering the cost to the state. I've secured funding for the KGB resurfacing and reconstruction and advocated for additional public safety officers in the Valley, supported the repeal of Senate Bill 91, created a public and private partnership at no cost to the state, which has increased Alaska's workforce development. Looking at our legislative priorities that the Chamber has, I would say KGB is still on that top of the list. Safe roads will lead to safer communities, and it's what moves goods and services throughout our state. I'm proud to, again, lead that effort as a heavy lift and keep that project active along with our other Matsu representatives that are also here today. That type of work takes collaboration, it takes teamwork, and it takes relationships with everyone to be able to do that. We're just one person, and it takes 21 representatives and 11 senators and one signature of the governor. And it takes it's legislative as a team sport, and you need to be able to build teams and to work with others well. And I think I've proven myself to be an efficient team player and be able to be efficient to get the ball moving. What other priorities that are also on your list, I feel, is your second priority, which are, I think, 3 of those items would definitely help the economy, but I think you're missing one. So those 4 things are to improve the Matsu economy are the bridge to Point Mac, the rail extension, the port, and I think one of the most important things is the Susitna Watana Dam. That is going to be one of the biggest cost drivers to large industries is the cost of power. Having the Susitna Watana project would be a large driver in construction jobs during the development of the dam and would drastically lower the cost of energy along the rail belt once that's completed. So again, my name is David Wilson, running for Senate District D. I ask for your continued trust. I ask for your support, and most importantly, I've asked for your vote on August 18th. And remember, facts do matter. Please reach out to me if you guys have any questions or concerns, as there's a lot of misinformation from other campaigns that are going out there. I'm always available. I'm always available to my constituents. I'm also available for anyone who just wants to ask a general question or to help with any type of constituency issue. And if you need more information, you can also come out to have a meet and greet tomorrow at the House of Bread so we can come break some bread, have some sweets and treats, and talk about the campaign, talk about issues, and talk about this great state that I love so much. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Our next candidate is Stephen Wright.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Stephen Wright, and I'm running for State Senate District D out in the Valley. Of course, we know where it's at, from all the way down to Port Mac, from Wasilla. We live currently in Meadow Lakes. I was born in Anchorage, Alaska, and when my father was serving here during the Vietnam War, and so I have had 5 sons graduate from the Wasilla high schools. Additionally, we returned to the Valley in 2009. I was serving in the military. At 18 years in service, I was given an opportunity to select my next assignment, which was I picked Elmendorf Air Force Base. So that wasn't the first assignment I got to pick, but that's another story. I don't have time for that. So I've been involved in politics since retiring from the military. I ran against Don Young back in 2016, and then I also ran against Kevin Meyer back in 2018. Why am I running? To restore the dividend and secure and right-size the budget. The people are first. We need like-minded conservatives to help get Alaska on track, as our district is underrepresented because of, for many different reasons, for votes on the bloated budget and votes that have affected our dividend. There are no differences between Kathy Giesel and our current representative because of how they voted on the big bloated government programs and binding caucuses, which they support. So I think that it's important that when we look at the permanent fund and how important it is for the locals here in the Valley, that you see that that it's been cut over time, starting with the governor. They turned it into a budgetary item, which I'm against. I was a budget analyst for several years in the military, so I certainly can take a look at kind of what they did is the only budget item that was really cut, nothing from the operating budget. The only cuts we really had were from the permanent fund. So I think that's a problem. If you look at it over the past 5 years, $8,869 have been taken from every single Alaskan, and that is an overreach. The bottom line is we cannot keep sending the same people down to Juneau and keep getting the same results. I think that, well, we need non-politicians to clean up the mess down in Juneau. The key to private development and economic activity, I like to think of it in 3 ways. We have the bridge to our future, the rail to our future, and the port to our future. And each of these result down Port McKenzie. So on the budget funding, I look at it 3 ways. You have a third of your budget is from oil and gas. A third of it comes from our shared resource development, from our shared earnings account, and then a third of it comes from basically from federal funds. And that's how we're going to get things done. So we must cap the operating budget, restore the PFD dividend through a repeal of the percent of market value, which is a bad deal for the state, and pay a full dividend through historical averages of earnings. Okay, next question, next 2 minutes. Did you want to ask it or do you want me to?
You're welcome to just pick the question and answer me.
So what is your chamber's top priority? Okay, I would agree that KGB Road needs to be repaired. It needs to be 4 lanes all the way down Port McKenzie. It's something that will last and ensure that we have a road to the future, our bridge to the future, and our resource development, which once we connect the rail through Port McKenzie, which is going to go all the way down to Canada and the lower 48, that's going to be very vital to our economic future going forward. So the reason why I look at this, we have to pay a full dividend. The fund, for example, has earned an average of $4.6 billion over the last 5 years, the average earnings. As we right-size the budget, and okay, basically what I'm saying for that is that after inflation proofing, you have $2.1 billion for permanent fund payment. You have $2.1 billion, which the legislation wants to turn it into any purpose general fund dollars. And I see that it needs to be more structured toward infrastructure. So we need to rely on these funds for infrastructure as we build toward the future. And we need to send like-minded conservatives to Juneau to get these things done. I know it's important. So of the $4.6 billion available, 2.1 is available for these type of things. So we need to leverage our federal funds, leverage our state funds appropriately, and leverage and make sure that our earnings are paid to the people. And that's an important thing, and then we'll make Alaska great again. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. We appreciate that. So Stephen concludes the 7 candidates that are running for Senate Seat D. And as we move forward, boy, that's a lot of people, folks. 7 versus the rest that are 2s and 3s and that kind of thing. So you're pretty passionate. As a reminder, our timekeeper is right here in front of us. And do keep an eye there. So far I haven't had to interrupt anybody, but I will if I need to. So moving on for State Senate Seat F. First up, Shelley Hughes.
Thank you to the Chamber for hosting us this evening and for spending your dinner hour here to learn about the candidates. It's important. So, 44 years ago, as a teenager, I came to Alaska, and I met my husband a couple years later, and we raised 4 children here in this great state, and Alaska has blessed us with opportunities. During that time when we first moved here, we lived in Hoonah in southeast Alaska. My husband was running clinics. We moved up to Bethel, and then up above the Arctic Circle to Fort Yukon, and then briefly in Fairbanks, Seward, and then 30 years this year to Palmer. It's hard to believe. My kids all went to the public schools here, and we just were, like I said, it was a great opportunity. In fact, there was one point as a young mom with little kids that technically I was under the poverty level. Our family was under the poverty level. And yet Alaska opened doors and opportunities, and that is actually why I'm running, because too many of our young people are going outside, and we have the ability to open up more doors, and it's important that we do it. Someone said earlier, we can't keep sending the same people back. I ask that you do send the same person back, and here's why. There's more work to do. And I have proven to you that I have stood strong. I've proven to you that I've been an effective consensus builder without forsaking my conservative values. And I have proven to you that I keep my ear to the ground and listen to you. I have probably held more town halls, more chats, and had more contact, Facebook Lives, etc. with the people of Alaska, because it's very important that your representative actually represents the district. And that is one reason why I've taken some hits. You're probably somewhat aware of that. And that's okay, Because when I go to sleep at night, I know I voted on behalf of the people that I serve, and I'm very proud of that, and that is what a legislator should do. Can I have a time check? Because I'm not all scripted. I'm where? 45 seconds. For the personal part. So I am running because we have some real challenges. We have to get our fiscal house in order, number one, and secondly, right now, with all that's happening in our nation, and with low oil prices, we have to pull ourselves out of the economic slump that we're in. And so it's very important that those two pieces, that we focus on those. And that's a great transition into the Chamber's question. Because although I agree with everyone that KGB is essential, it's life safety, I believe that we have that moving forward. We've stood as a delegation, and we've moved that for the last how many years, and it's going forward. So I'm going to take number 2 on that sheet, and that's infrastructure development. And here's why. We are a young state. We lack infrastructure. Look at a map of Alaska, and you will see it. Very few roads on that map. So whenever you have an economic slump, we all know that infrastructure development spurs the economy and provides jobs. That's a nice reason. But that's not the reason. The reason we need it is because we actually need infrastructure. We need it to open up those doors to opportunity. And so the port, the rail spur, all of those we need. And I tell you what I've been working on furiously the last couple of weeks is the rail line between Canada and Alaska. And guess what? That doesn't take a penny of state dollars. It doesn't take a penny of federal dollars. And yet, if that crosses over, we will get that port, the port finished. We will get that rail spur. In fact, it wouldn't only benefit our area, but it would benefit other ports, Seward, Valdez, other places in the state. So it's good overall for the state. So those infrastructure projects, I agree, the energy, the dam is also important. And we have to realize that one of the reasons we need to get our fiscal house in order is we cannot keep spending all our dollars on the operating budget. We have to free up dollars for the infrastructure, for our future. And I am going to close out my statement with an official announcement, and I'm using the chamber to do it. As of this evening, I am walking away from the Senate majority. Why am I doing it? Because my presiding officer has walked away from me. She no longer represents what I stood for when I joined the organization 2 years ago. She no longer stood for preserving and working hard to reduce the budget. And the false claims that she has made recently, that she has stood with the governor, are appalling to me. And as a candidate, I cannot align myself with those kind of false claims from a presiding officer. I have some excellent colleagues in the majority, and I look forward to working with them in the future, but I can no longer align myself with my presiding officer. So as of this evening, I am exiting the Senate majority, and I thought would I take this opportunity to let you know that. So thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. And our next candidate is Stephanie Jeffers. And I don't think I saw Stephanie. Okay. All right, so that is State Senate Seat F. And next we have state representatives representing District 7. And first to speak this evening is Lynn Gaddis.
Thank you for having me. My name is Lynn Gaddis, and I'm running for District 7, the greater Wasilla area. I've lived in this area for about 35 years. Previous to that, I was raised in I tell people the Gocana area, nobody knows where that is. Gocana, 5-6 miles away. Let's even go Glen Ellen, that's 13 miles away. Same area, right, Wes? I see some of my high school buddies. But anyway, that being said, my family homesteaded at mile 126 on the Richardson, and I have a bunch of brothers, and that was the only highway that we had back then. There was this new highway later on. They called it the Parks Highway. I still refer to it as the new highway. But that being said, I went through grades 1 through 8 in Gacona, and my 1 through 8 grade teacher lives in Palmer still, and her daughter lives on my next door neighbor. I went to high school in Cordova and graduated there. Moved from there to Dillingham, spent time in Dillingham and King Salmon. Moved to Anchorage, met my husband. He was an airline captain. He's since retired. And I was an airline executive for a company called Flying Tigers. And I tease people, I said, it's not a circus act. It really was the world's largest all-cargo airline. That was a few years ago. We moved to Wasilla. My husband wanted to have his own runway. He wanted to have his own lake that he could land his airplane on. And Wasilla 35 years ago was very different. And we raised our kids here. It was a big deal when Pizza Hut first started being built. It's like, Mom, when we're going to Pizza Hut. So we've seen a lot of changes here in Wasilla. I've been here at the same place. We built another house, maybe a lot over, but I think it could be fair to say for 35 years I've been at the same house. Been with the same husband too. That being said, I want to run to represent this greater Wasilla area. I know it well. I've also been in the legislature 4 years ago, 2 terms ago, I was in. I chaired education. I'm passionate about that. And I'll back up. I was on our local school board with our current governor. I call him Dunleavy, but his name is Governor Dunleavy. And it's one of the things that we looked at is, I didn't see the sun, thank you, that we looked at some of the changes that we could do for education. We needed to go upstairs. We needed to go to the legislature. And I think we made some amazing changes in homeschooling, that type of thing. So now I'll pivot to the question. Of course, other folks got there before me. I travel KGB Road probably every day. We have a couple thousand acres of hay and cattle out at Point McKenzie. And there's a difference between Point McKenzie and Port McKenzie. And there is a port. It's a great port. We've got a rail extension, and for those that are not real clear, that rail extension not only went through my property, but many other farmers' properties. And there seems to be some speculation out there, about whether I'm allowed to get paid for my land or not. And I'm here to tell you, I'm a big private property type of gal. And private property really matters. That's what we all built economy on what we own, what we work hard for. That being said, I'm very pro-infrastructure, whether it's the Ambler Mine Road or whether it's KGB, which anybody who's ever hauled loads of hay up and down, that's a dangerous road. There's Fish Creek, and I go up and down there, and I worry about that area too. They certainly need a place to fish. I'm running so that I can help the governor. I've worked well with him. We both had the same budgets. We worked in the school board together. But basically, this is my Alaska. I was raised here. I've been here almost 63 years. Yeah, that's how old I am. And folks, we got to get our house in order. And by that I mean we have to get a majority house that the governor can work with. That is hugely important. And so I'm running to get that house in order. So thank you very much for having me. And again, my name is Lynn Gaddis. And if you feel like donating, it's gaddisalaska.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And our next candidate is Christopher Kirkup. Microphone's right there on the table.
Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it. Seems like there's never enough opportunities for forums and debates. So looking forward to that debate. Here we go. Compare comments. So, my name is Christopher Kirk, as you heard. I'm a third-generation Alaskan. I'm privileged to be married to my spectacular wife, Haley. We have 4 beautiful sons, Justice, Samuel, Benny, and then born to us just early this summer, Titus. We live here in the city of Wasilla. We have 2 businesses that we own and run. Gladheart Acres, which is a We produce quality soap and lotions, and Noble Business Services, where we do strategic tax planning and tax and accounting for small business, specializing for small businesses. I'm running for State House because I'm deeply disturbed about what's happening to our state, what's being left to our children. Juneau has a crisis of leadership. There has been reckless spending, overspending, for over a decade. We spend more per capita in the state of Alaska than any other state. The next closest state, we spend 25% more than they do. Now, greedy and feckless politicians are taking the PFD to try and perpetuate our oversized, unsustainable state government. And I've heard before, the bureaucrats and the politicians, there's never enough. They can take the PFD and they'll come to us with increased egregious taxes on top of the PFD. As a result, Alaska has been ranked one of the worst places in the union to do business. 47th out of 50. A few years ago, we ranked the worst state to do business in. This is unacceptable. With our accounting business, my wife and I get the privilege of working with many small businesses. And before the COVID shutdowns, we weren't the best place to do business. Now, after the COVID shutdowns, businesses are struggling on the edge. We have to become the best place in the world to do business. If we don't, I'm not sure what's going to be left to our children. Are you telling me for the first 3 minutes or the whole 5? Okay, thank you. Our tourism industry has been, is gone for this year. Our oil industry is in survival mode, and even our fishing industry is suffering. As an elected representative, I see it as my responsibility, my duty to lead on these critical issues facing our state. I support the Wasilla Chamber of Commerce agenda items. Probably my biggest priority on that list is making Alaska a haven for free enterprise and entrepreneurship. My only caveat is sometimes when we bring in, or look to bring in, federal money to help our community, sometimes those trainings are not exactly helpful, and we have to watch out for that. They can be restricted to our businesses and the death of free enterprise and free markets if we're not careful, which is, I think, what we've seen in the state over the last several decades. We have an opportunity for new blood, new ideas to lead our state from the valley. This is where we should be leading from. One of the things we need for business to prosper in Mat-Su, in our state, is a safe place for our community and our businesses to operate. And as we've seen around the country with the chaos and the businesses being burned and destroyed and people's livelihoods and even their lives being lost because of rampant crime, it's by the grace of God we don't have somebody funding that kind of activity up here like it's being funded in the lower 48. But unfortunately, we had a legislature that passed things like SB 91, which my opponent voted for. That's not the kind of leadership we need in Juneau. Conventional politicians will give you conventional results. We need different results. I'm running for State House and Representative Wasilla District 7. I appreciate your vote. My website is christopherkirka.com. You can donate. You can see what my position and other issues are on there. Appreciate your vote. And again, Christopher Kirker, State House. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. All right, so that concludes for our two candidates for House 7. And then next for State House District 8, Alma Hartley. Okay, Alma is not with us. Kevin McCabe. Kevin? Again, as a reminder, you've got 3 minutes to introduce yourself and 2 minutes to respond to a priority question.
Thanks, and thanks to the Greater Wasilla Chamber for hosting this and giving us all a chance to explain our positions. Sure appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that came out for tonight and to listen to us. My name is Kevin McCabe. I've lived in Alaska for 40 years. I started out in Kodiak, Anchorage, and now Big Lake. We've been there for 4 years. My wife, Lynn, is living with me and 2 dogs and a bunch of chickens. I have 3 sons and 3 grandchildren that also live in Alaska, and one of my sons lives in South Dakota. I have a Bachelor of Science degree and a Master in Business Administration. I'm a small government, conservative Republican. I believe in less government, less regulation, and I think that equals more liberty. I believe that SB 91, the repeal of SB 91, did not go far enough. I think we need to give our troopers and our prosecutors the tools they need to fix the crime problem in the valley. For those of you that don't know, there are 7 compounds, crime compounds, in my district, out by Big Lake, Meadow Lakes. We have to have citizens patrolling them because the troopers can't or won't go out there. And some of these compounds are stolen goods sales, some of them are chop shops, and most of them are meth production compounds. We need to fix that. I believe that the PFD belongs to the people. I think the people should vote on the PFD, and I think that the legislative theft created by SB 26 is an unconscionable abuse of the public trust. We need to change it back. We need to get rid of SB 26. It needs to be a transfer the way it's been since its inception, and not an appropriation. I don't believe in the binding caucus. I think the vote belongs to the people. And I believe we need to get back to that. My vote belongs to the people, and the people need to be able to count on my vote being for the bill and not something far in the future. So I'm running because I believe the legislature has overspent. They spent $17 billion in the last 6 years out of our savings. That needs to change. We have no roads to show for it, no power plants, nothing to show for it. Port Mac's not finished, the rail spur's not finished. Where did that $17 billion go? What was the money spent on? So as far as the question, I believe that KGB Road is the most important, but maybe not because of what you think. It's not necessarily because people have died. Certainly they have, and that's a shame. The KGB Road is key to everything else. It's key to Port Mac. It's key to the bridge. It's key to economic development. For instance, if we don't have Port Mac, then how can we get everything for Susitna-Watana in that we need to get in there? Port Mac is a deep water port. The port of Anchorage, which is now called the Port of Alaska, thank you, Mayor Berkowitz, it takes too much maintenance. It needs to be dredged every year or 2 years. Port Mac is a deep water port. We need to develop that. We need the jobs. We need the infrastructure. In my opinion, the equation is simple. Small government equals less regulation, which equals more jobs, which equals more revenue. As my dad said, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. You can check me out on both kevinjmccabe.com. I'm sorry, kevinjmccabe.com. Facebook is both Kevin McCabe. And if you have any questions, I will answer the phone, and I will answer emails, and I will answer Facebook messages and Twitter and all the social media that some politicians and some legislators will answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. You're welcome to applaud if you'd like. And Mark Newman. Is Mark with us? Okay, I didn't think I saw Mark. All right, so that concludes District 8. Next we have State House District 9, and our first candidate is Lucas Howard. Lucas Howard is not with us. So, moving on, Bill Johnson. Is Bill with us? All right. And George Washer. I see George. I knew I saw George, yes. George, come on down.
Everybody, I thank you for coming. I also would like to thank the Wasilla Chamber for holding this event for us. My name is Representative George Rauscher. I've been in Alaska since the mid-70s. My wife and I have raised 4 daughters. Now, if you think about it, my wife and 4 daughters, if I'm going to get my fair share slice of the pie, it's going to have to be through negotiation. And I think that has helped me out as a legislator ever since I've been there. I've sat on the Sutton Community Council for 12 years. I chaired that council for 4. My career in construction took me all over Alaska, whether it's King Cove, Anchorage, Fairbanks, North Slope, Bethel, wherever. I believe that also gave me a good insight toward the problems that we have in our state, the different communities and their needs. So anyway, 1992, I started my own business. I went out on my own and gave me an idea of the monetary economic situation in this state. As a business owner in the construction sector while in Juneau, I fought against the burdening regulations, written and passed legislation that has done just that, to eliminate them. But providing for the private sector has a long way to go. And we must be jobbed at one. I've never been in a binding caucus, sat in the minority, where I've been free to vote as I believe my constituents would have me. I've sponsored two pieces of pro-life, 2 pieces of Second Amendment legislation, and co-sponsored 1 other. I've also written pro-life legislation with Representative Sarah Vance, HB 302. It's otherwise known as the Heartbeat Bill. We got 18 signatures put forward that bill before it was even introduced on the floor. That was a milestone. We haven't had that many legislators sign on to a bill like that in a long time. It took a lot of work. We had to work together. We had to work with other legislators and our colleagues. And I appreciate each one of those that stepped up to the challenge. As far as the question and answer, I believe the most important interest to me is the equitable distribution of transportation funding and recognition of the area's substantial growth and ours economic engine for the region and beyond. The Latsu Valley has received a historically disproportionate allotment of funding when it concerns transportation infrastructure. It's also true that we have been short-cheated on the Kinnick Arm Crossing Project, the rail spur, and Point McKenzie. But what's even worse, the matching funds that ensure safety, decrease traffic congestion, and spur growth. We need to win back the House majority and the key seats that we need on finance to be able to negotiate for our slice of the pie. We need to work together in Juneau with our colleagues, as funding is going to be even slimmer this year than all. If you could use your vote, August 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, George. That concludes our 3 candidates for State House Seat 9. And moving on to State Representative for Seat 10, David Eastman.
Well, thank you. If I haven't had the chance to meet you in person yet, I'm David Eastman, and very glad to be representing District 10, the rural western Mat-Su. Thank you to those who are watching online. Appreciate it. Sorry you couldn't be here in person. I'm running for the House because the legislature as an institution in our state has broken faith with the people of Alaska. The people had every right to expect that when Governor Bill Walker vetoed the PFD, that our representatives would stand against that and would veto that. so that we could follow the law and maintain the calculation of PFD that we've had in statute for 40 years. Our legislature did not do that. They didn't even meet to hold that vote. That was breaking faith with the people. Since then, they've done it many more times. Many of you may have joined us here in Wasilla last summer when the governor called a special session here in Wasilla at the middle school. And when we came, but there was only about 22 of us that came. The vast majority of the legislature decided they were not going to come. And they flew down to Juneau at your expense, taxpayer dollars, and they proceeded to hold an illegal session. Pretending, of course, that they had the authority to do that, which they did not. Many other times, I have watched as legislators, again, we're a body of individuals who make individual decisions, but I have watched time and again as legislators have done things like pass SB 91 against the will of the people, and then for the last 4 years, held on to it, tooth and nail, refusing to repeal. And the repeal came through last year only after much opposition from those in power in the legislature. And without Governor Dunleavy, it would not have happened. That's clear. How do we restore faith that has been broken? The first thing we do is we keep to what we say we're going to do. As legislators, it's our responsibility to be open and honest with the people about what we're going to do. With the PFD, my position has been that we need to follow the law. If there's going to be a change, the people need to be a part of that process. They need not to be able to just call and testify for 2 minutes at a time. They need to be able to have a public vote on that before we change their dividend, because it is their dividend, it's not ours. And yet in the legislature in Juneau, we have a lot of holdovers from back in statehood. Unfortunately, we started as a Democrat state. We instituted a binding caucus the very first year that the legislature was in process, and that is hog-tying us as legislators. It is keeping your voice from being heard. It is not fair. In my mind, it's not legal for one of my constituents to call and ask me, about an issue, about how I'm going to vote, and for me to say, well, I've already pledged my vote. Go talk to the Speaker of the House. That's your vote. I should be responsible for that. That's why I'm running for the House. On the topic of our agendas here as a chamber, I think the final agenda is the one that stands out most to me, and that is regulations and the free market. It impacts pretty much every other thing on the list as well. And the culture that I've observed in the legislature in my brief time there has been that we pass regulations far too easily. We don't look closely at them. There are occasions where we take entire chapters from other states, like the state of Washington, and we plug them into our regulations, our laws. And those are not appropriate to where we are in our development as a state, and they make it very, very difficult for businesses to start, to develop, to grow. I know that's certainly the case in my district, but I know it's the case in every other part of the state as well. And so if we're going to be maintaining those kind of regulations, then we will continue to be slow in developing. We will continue to be behind other states. And there's no reason for us to do that other than our culture. We pass regulations very easily without thinking about the logical implications, and we need to stop. And we need to recognize that the path that we're on as a state is unsustainable financially, fiscally. We're not going to be able to reach out to the federal government for the amount of support and stimulus and funding that we have in the past. Those days are changing, and so we need to be able to change with them. And I wish I could say that things are going great, and I'm just here to make sure that they are, but that's not been my experience, and that's not the experience of the voters that I talk with. So we do need change, and we need people who are honest. We need people who will maintain the responsibility for their vote, because that's what people deserve. I'm David Eastman. You can reach me at davideastman.org, reach me on Facebook or my website. I'd be glad to talk to you. Thank you.
Okay, and coming in next, we have Monica Stein-Olson. Is Monica with us? All right, Jesse Sumner.
Hi, my name is Jesse Jesse Sumner. I'm a lifelong resident of Matsu. I was born at the old Palmer Hospital. Grew up first in Pittman and then moved around the entire valley. My family was in the construction industry, so we had, always moving into whatever house didn't sell, basically. A husband, father of 3 little boys. I am a home builder out here in Matsu, a member actually of the Greater Wasilla Chamber of Commerce. The reason that I decided to run was that I've seen for the last 2 years, while we have a governor from the Valley, a Republican governor, and we can make great things happen, we've had nothing but pushback from the legislature. They've held the PFD hostage, they've held road funding hostage, and I believe that the current representative has helped facilitate that. He has not been somebody that can work with the other members of his party to get things done. And I would contrast that by saying that as a Matsu Borough Assembly member for the last, since being elected in 2018, I have got things done. I prevented the $1 mil proposed property tax increase last year. I got the property tax, I was instrumental in helping get the property tax lowered this year. I passed an ordinance to prevent sitting assembly members from contracting with the borough without public notice, something that was happening. I prevented the precincts from all being closed and switching to or helped prevent the precincts from all being closed and switching to a mail-in only ballot. And just an example of things that I have got done. My opponent has introduced, I believe, around 75 bills. None of them have got to a floor vote. He hardly even gets most of them, request hearings for most of them. I went to one of his faculty trainings a long time ago. It's basically Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals and how to attack other conservatives. If your own members of your caucus believe that you are going to attack them, they're not going to work with you. And in a legislative body, if you cannot work with other people, you cannot get anything done. And so we are heading towards a fiscal cliff, and a vote for my opponent is a vote for Bryce Edgman as Speaker for 2 more years. We're going to run off that cliff. The dividend will be gone forever, and yeah, that's why I'm running. As far as the Greater Wasilla Chamber of Commerce priorities, I believe that infrastructure is an essential priority. That we've had our transportation funding unfairly withheld, first under Walker and then threatened under the current legislature. And that, as one of the only pretty much the only growing part of the state, it's essential that we continue to have good roads and adequate funding for our growing transportation needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. That concludes State House, District 10, and moves us to District 11. And first up is Alex, is it Feta? Okay, Alex is not with us. Andrea Hackbarth. Delana Johnson.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight, and it's a beautiful evening out, so to be here is wonderful. I appreciate it. And thank you to the Wasilla Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum. My opponent in the primary, Alex Feta, has withdrawn. His name will still be on the ballot, but he, after observing my stance on things, he's decided that I was a good choice for him to be his representative. So he is not in the race anymore. A little bit about myself. Many of you probably know who I am. Maybe many of you do not. I was raised in Talkeetna. I got there when I was 3 years old, and I won't tell you how long ago that was because my mom told me if a woman will tell her age, she'll tell anything, and so you probably figured that out if I told you exactly how long ago that was. But it was over 50. So I'm an Alaskan. I'm running for office because I think we need Alaskans in office. There was a time, there was a saying that was, we just don't give a damn how we do it outside. And I think sometimes we've lost a little bit of that. Somewhere in the middle of Alaska's growth and the desire to do more, and I think all those were good things, but we lost that sense of our individuality, our sense of making Alaska grow and to be stronger. And I think it's so important that we don't become just another version of California, that Alaska, or some version of an out-of-state worst place. We don't want that to be where we want to end up at. So, and with all due respect for anyone from out of state, because let's see, I'm trying to. I wasn't going to speak tonight. I wanted the people that had raised to really get out and talk and hear a little bit. But I was raised in Talkeetna, like I said. My mother was 43 and my father was 57 when I was born, and so I was really. My father was almost a senior citizen by the time I was born, so I recognize a little bit of some of how the senior population. But then I have children. I have 5 children, and they are also at that point in their lives, they're trying to get their hold and jobs, build their own families. And so we in Alaska have to be aware of the people that are being affected right now. And I believe that I have that sense from having both, my parents and my family, my 5 children, 4 that graduated from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And that time is my biography time. Okay, thank you. We're faced right now with something that's different, unknown, and worldwide. Fortunately, it's not quite as bad as we thought it would be, but there are many, many, many businesses in our state, in our nation, that are affected and will probably, this will change the face of, I think, our society, but we have to be aware of what is happening out there. And people and in businesses, and I own a business, I got into politics because of trying to run a business and have a sense of where my business was going. But business owners are incredibly impacted by COVID, and millennials particularly. I mean, they are seeming hopeless and unsure of what the future is. I think it's very important as legislators. We can talk about the difficulties we have, but somehow we have to talk about how Alaska can somehow come back from this and be different and be strong. And there is hope out there, even though we're running a huge deficit with very difficult decisions ahead. I don't want to make light of anything that we have ahead because this is going to be a tough session no matter what. Alaska is facing very difficult financial decisions and a situation ahead. My number 1 priority on the list, well, I think I'm going to give Kathy Tillman a shout out on the Connecticut Bay Road. I think we, as a Mat-Su legislative delegation, I think we all worked together and said that was our number 1 priority, even though I'm in Palmer, George is towards Sutton, but we worked together. We knew that was something that was affecting every one of us and our families that needed to get done. And so give her the credit for bringing that home. And so I believe we have the governor's assurance that that money is funded and that is moving forward. So my next one would be, I want to add to that what's realistic is the construction funding, equitable funding, and construction monies for the Mat-Su and transportation projects. We have some additional CARES Act funding, I believe, will be coming in from the coming in from the federal government. We have some money to match it. Alaska needs transportation and infrastructure. That's where we potentially can use some money, get some money that we absolutely are having difficulty with Alaska actually having our own so we can match the federal money. I don't want to go any further. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to our last forum, and this is for the State House representative, and this is District 12, and Danny Gray. I didn't think I saw him. One more shout out, Danny Gray. All right, that brings us to Kathy Tilton. I know you're one-handed there, Kathy. Do you need any help? Okay, you got it. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here this evening and getting up your evening to listen to the candidates and what they have to say. And thank you to the Wasilla Chamber for putting this on, and to Valley Cinema for opening their doors so that we can be here. My name is Kathy Tilton, and I am the current rep for House District 12, which includes the Peters Creek, Eklutna, well, the best part of Anchorage, in my opinion. And a little bit of Chubiak, and then we go to the Butte over in Palmer, and then Fairview Loop, which does include a lot of the KGB Road section. So I came to Alaska when I was 2 years old with my parents who were in the military, and I have a very, very strong love of country and military. There are other members in my family who are veterans who wouldn't actually come out in public and say that, but they are, and they deserve all of our thank you for fighting for our freedom so that we can be free. So thank you to all of the military members here. I spent a lot of time volunteering in my community before I even got involved in the legislature. It was never my dream to become a legislator. I really just wanted to be a part of my community. I worked for the city of Wasilla for about 10 years, so I worked on the local government at a time when Wasilla was at a pivotal time in changing. And again, Wasilla is at a pivotal time. The whole Mat-Su Valley is at a pivotal time. So I also worked a little bit as a legal secretary in a law firm, and then went off to raise my family and work in our own business. I'm proud to say that my 3 boys, who my husband and myself raised, are also private business owners and are paying payroll, employing people, and understand all those things that we go through as private business owners, regulations, the trials and tribulations, and the wonderful successes of making this one of the best places on earth to live. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the successes that we've had in the legislature. As being in the minority, we were able to repeal and replace SB 91, which was a huge effort. I did put the first repeal amendment on SB 91. Crime is very important. It's important to local business that we get that crime under control. We also were able, as being the lead member on the finance team, and sometimes it's not about the things that you can see that we get done. It's about the bad things that we stop. So there has been lots of effort to bring forward taxation to the people, and we've been able to put some stops to that. One of my strongest pieces of legislation that I am in support of and have filed was a constitutional spending limit. It needs to be constitutional because we need to revise the limit that we have. It is a cornerstone to our fiscal stability. I think it's a very, very important thing. It needs to be revised. It needs to go out to the people, and so that the people can have confidence back in the fiscal stability of our state. That's the #1 priority. As far as the Wasilla Chamber priorities, every one of those priorities are amazing. They are all things that will help with the Mat-Su and make it one of the best places in the world to be. I would say thank you to all of my colleagues for the work that did happen on KGB Road. It was put on pause by Governor Walker, and we were able as a team to get that off of pause, which was quite an effort. And even though you are in the minority as House members, we were able to get the funding and get that funding back, and then also get the funding to do the resurfacing of KGB Road, which is
that was a priority, and it had to happen. This is not only to save our constituents, our friends, and our neighbors' lives, but also to be able to move forward with infrastructure projects. So road funding and equitable funding is very important. It's important that we get behind each district as a group to bring forth those projects for each district, that we work together to do that. I'm pleased that all the colleagues got together to work for our side of the valley, and I'm happy to work and move forward to the other side of the valley so that the Mat-Su is the best place to live and that we get that equitable funding. Secondly, I would say that regulation is very important. I co-sponsored a bill that would reduce regulation that was a lot along the lines that Senator Sullivan had put forward, a little bit different, and I would like to see that bill go forward and that we remove the burdensome regulation that are put on our local businesses. So, my name is Kathy Tilden. Thank you for having me. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Kathy. So that concludes our forum this evening, and just as a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, I know my husband and I have both served in public office, and there is not a candidate that brings their names forward who don't do so because they care about their community. We love and are passionate about the Mat-Su, and that's why each and every one of you are here, whether you're a candidate or you are someone who's trying to learn more about the candidate you may vote for. We had 24 names brought forward to us this evening, and we had 15 of those people that took time to be here. So we thank you for that. Yes, please do. Thank you very much. And thank you for bringing your names forward and for caring and being passionate as we are. On behalf of the Wasilla Chamber of Commerce, Jessica, if you'd like to conclude, I'm Cheryl Bativa with the Valley Cinema. It's been an honor to host this event, and as I told Jessica, we'll do so anytime that you need a venue. Jessica?
And thank you, Cheryl, for hosting for us tonight. As I mentioned earlier, we will do a debate for our contested seats in 2 weeks on August 12th, which is a Wednesday evening, again at 5:30 until we conclude. So you guys should have all gotten invitations for that. If not, let me know and I will send you one. It's 5:30 probably to 7:30. Doors will open at 5. Thank you all for coming out tonight and for everybody online as well. Have a great night, guys.
Thank you, my fellow Alaskans, for coming and tuning in tonight with the candidate forum that they've had. Don't forget to share. Facebook spills on you if you don't share. Just for future references, we've got Christopher Kirka that will be coming up for an interview a little bit later this week. We got B. Rupright, and then next week we've already booked up Stephen Holland, or not Holland, but Duplantis to be interviewing, and we are sure we're going to have several more after that. I'm sure Lloyd Santa is also looking to set up an interview here real soon, and we'll get you guys all on camera, and you get to hear the issues for conversations that you won't hear anywhere else. Again, don't forget to share. Facebook squeals on you if you don't share. And one last final request, exposing the dirt and the corruption that's happening within our Alaska, making sure that we're here for every single time, that there's an availability to make sure you, the public, get a first-hand view of what's going on within our politics behind the scenes. It is a full-time job. I need your help. Send some donations my way. Go to politidick.com. That's Politidick. That's Politidick. Man, I can tell it's been a long day. Politidick.com. Click that donate button. Donate a few dollars. Every penny helps. It fills the gas tank. Another cup of coffee to keep me awake after these long, long days that I've been having here recently. We have several more forums coming up this week. We've got another one tomorrow and a Meet the Candidates on Friday, and on top of the interviews that are going to be happening. You all have a great night. Thanks.